Well, we did cover the story for you a little bit earlier, and then hopefully we can get a hold of my colleague Hitekani Magwedze there. Hitekani joining us right through from Limpopo again, and hopefully we can get a hold of you on the story this time around. But you were continuing to tell us how the employees are saying that they're not going to just move away from this. Have you heard any clearer messages with regards to whether they'll take it to the CCMA, whether they'll be going to lawyers or anything of that sort?
Well, apologies there to our viewers, Aravile, just a technical difficulty. But in terms of the workers, they say they've spoken to the union SASBO, which is an affiliate of COSATU, and they explained that the union says it'll come back to them on Tuesday with an answer regarding negotiations or consultations, rather, between themselves and the bank and the curator, because we do understand that the severance packages or severance letters were put together by the curator, looking at the amount of years that the workers had worked, and also this year the amount of time that they had worked, and the contracts and such. So taken into consideration different factors that fed into what the workers were supposed to be remunerated, but the workers say that that's not enough. Some of them say that they're heartbroken because they were permanent with this bank and took out loans because they were permanent, and took out home loans and car loans and such, and they believe they'd be able to pay back the bank while they worked here. Obviously, they had hopes that it would go on for longer than this. They had no foresight that this would happen, but they say that they're heartbroken because now they face, some of them are being paid 5,000 Rand, and we spoke to a gentleman earlier today who said being paid 5,000 Rand, he has a home loan with VBS and a car loan with VBS, and he has a family that he needs to take care of. He doesn't know what he's going to do with that amount of money going forward.
Yeah. They still do need to, however, remain open somewhat to receive deposits nonetheless. You could mention, of course, our previous #1 citizen in the country who still needs to pay back a loan received from VBS. So they do remain open, but are they not fearful? Have you heard perhaps from VBS itself in saying that they're perhaps fearful that people could come through on Monday and the likes to perhaps protest in front of these offices, considering that some will still remain open?
Well, that's correct, Arabile. Some of these branches are open countrywide, and that's why 26 workers are still retained by the bank. It's just 100 that have been retrenched or offered those retrenchment letters. But we haven't spoken to the bank in terms of the fears of a march or a protest. There were fears when the bank was taken under curatorship. There were rumors of a strike brewing, especially in Thohoyandou, where the headquarters are, but that never came to fruition. Right now, though, we spoke to some of the community members in Thohoyandou, and they explained that they were more heartbroken than angry at the moment. It seems they are still reeling from the report that came out. Most of them are just shocked and taken aback at the rumors or at the allegations that have been put forward that people took hundreds of millions of rands that belong to normal day-to-day depositors who had hopes that this bank would be the legacy, especially of the vendor people who are predominantly in Thohoyandou, and they say that they're quite heartbroken. But in terms of an uproar or a protest or a strike, there isn't such talk at the moment, and we haven't spoken to the bank about it, Aravile.
Have any of the employees perhaps announced and made clear their displeasure at the exact looting which has happened, of course, from senior officials, which has perhaps nothing to do with them. It has perhaps nothing to do with an employee or two. But have they been able to, announce and share their displeasure and what it is exactly their sentiment is towards the leadership of VBS Bank and those involved in the scandal?
Well, exactly that, Aravile. They're heartbroken because it's the end, or it signals the end of years and years of service. We spoke to an elderly woman who was a cleaner for the bank for over 15 years. She's just been offered 21,000 rand as paltry, as a severance letter or severance package rather. And she says she has over 6, or rather close to 12 children, her children and grandchildren that she has to take care of. And she was just saying that, her job has now been cut short because people mismanaged funds. They're quite angry at the possibility and the allegations that people at the top took what was working for themselves, for the workers, and for the community and the country, and mismanaged this and squandered the millions of rands and the prospects of a future that will secure her a pension fund. So quite a number of them are quite disgruntled, and that's what I think is also pushing the unhappiness that they have with the severance packages. Most of them were talking about the millions, the hundreds of millions that they saw, linked to several names on that list on the bank heist report, and they say that compared to what they're getting, these people seem to have taken a whole lot more that they did not deserve, while they had served the bank for many years and they're getting peanuts, in their words, Arabile.
Yeah. Very finally, Hitekani, it is a sentiment that is perhaps shared by many. We had African Bank, we've had Steinhoff, which may not be a bank, but in itself is an irregularity and mismanagement by the senior staff and senior officials within the companies themselves. VBS is similar to that. It's not the first, it's the first of many. Really, when we saw African Bank happen in around 2012, we sit now with a situation where we perhaps are asking ourselves whether management leadership is at perhaps not dealing with leading the country in the right manner. Would you say, and would you characterize this, Hitekani, considering the involvement you've had with residents, with bank staff as well, that indeed it is the fallacy of mismanagement and the leadership that has caused the failure of VBS at present?
Well, looking at the bank heist report, looking at the conversations that we've had with workers, you are just forced to characterize it as that. It's quite clear that had management put first the needs of the depositors, the needs of the shareholders and minority shareholders, who I must say, Arabile, some of them are business people who are now facing a liquidation. Most of the monies were in the bank, and now they don't have proper cash flow, and some of them are looking at retrenching their workers. But apart from that, these depositors had the management put forward and considered and prioritized the needs of the depositors, the shareholders and the workers, this definitely wouldn't have happened. It seems, and it's quite clear that it was a mismanagement of funds, and the management did not consider first good governance of the bank and the needs and the lives of the staff and the depositors first and foremost.
Hitekani, appreciate your reporting. Some lovely work out there in Limpopo, but thank you so much for that. That's my colleague Hitekani Magwedze. They're out in Limpopo giving us a detailed outbreak as well, as you can tell, just of what's happening out at VBS.